Hey guys, I'm Eclipse, and today I'm going to be bringing you something a little bit new. Now, basically, because of the new patch, I haven't really wanted to make new hero videos for Dota metagame analysis. So what I've decided to do is, in the spirit of 6.84, we are going to talk about everyone's favorite item, Aghanim Scepter, specifically ranking them, the Aghanim Scepter upgrades from worst to best. Now, there won't be any gold bias, meaning I'm going to assume everyone has enough. Everyone's going to be able to farm up this money, and there will be no hero bias, basically meaning I am not going to lower Alchemist on this list because he's a terrible hero. Anyway, moving on. To start out, at number 76, there are 76 items upgrades, by the way. We are going worst to best. Legion Commander. Legion Commander's Aghanim's upgrade makes her ult basically not end until until ugh, until someone dies. So it basically makes the duration infinite. Now, this is pretty worthless for various reasons, to be honest. For one, this doesn't actually help Legion Commander win duels. Like, let me give you an example. If there is a PA and a Witch Doctor, if your Legion Commander does 10 damage, she can maybe win the duel against the Witch Doctor with Ags now, because she can kill the Witch Doctor in like 10 seconds. But this Ags is not going to help you fight the PA, because you're still gonna die to the PA. If I got a Blade Mail, I could have fought this PA, and I could have won the duel, because she would have killed herself. So, it doesn't actually help you win duels. Now, it allows you to win duels you might have otherwise lost without an Aghanim Scepter, but you probably would have won that duel if you had spent 4,200 gold on damage instead, so basically this Aghanim's upgrade does absolutely nothing. Nothing useful at all. It's honestly it's probably detrimental to have this on your team, because it is just so pointless. Duel is already a very long lasting spell, and someone is already probably gonna die at the end. So this just doesn't do anything. Nothing good, at least. Anyway, next we have Vengeful Spirit. Vengeful Spirit's Ags upgrade allows you to swap every 10 seconds, and it also allows you to swap creeps. Now, this really... Okay. In a fight, the Vengeful Spirit is generally going to use swap to save an ally or to initiate, and after she swaps, she's probably going to be in the middle of the enemy team and she's going to die. And if she needs to save someone, she's just going to die. No way she's going to be able to swap again, even if it is on a 10-second cooldown. And if it's used to initiate, you're probably going to kill the person without needing to swap them again. So there's really not much point to this Ags upgrade. It's not helpful. It doesn't really save anyone. It doesn't really make Venge a better hero in any way. I mean, honestly, you're basically going to play the exact same way with an Aghanim Scepter as without. Maybe you can use swap to move faster or something, I don't know, but it's really not that good. It doesn't do anything useful. So, yeah, Vengeful Spirit Ags upgrade, mediocre at best. Next, number 74, Nyx Assassin. Nyx Assassin gives you Burrow, which means that you go invisible, you take 40% damage, or does it reduce? I don't know, whatever. Either way, you take less damage. You have double cast range on Impale and Mana Burn, and when you cast Spiked Carapace, everyone in a 300 AoE is stunned. Now, in order to burrow, there's a 1-second delay. I mean, if you could instantly burrow, this would be great, because you could line up a huge stun. You could blink, instantly burrow, and stun a lot more heroes than you might in the past, but you can't. And you can't move while you're burrowed either. So you can't really position yourself. And it basically... Like, this is only useful if the enemy team is coming to you. Maybe you can use it to try and live, to save yourself if the enemy team doesn't have detection, but in that, it's just like TA meld. Like, you're still gonna die. You're just gonna die a little bit later because the courier is bringing sentries, so it really doesn't do anything. Like, the 40% damage reduction is never gonna save you. I think you also heal, but again, it's not gonna save you. It's just gonna make you die slower. So, and like, the upgrades to the abilities are nice and all, but they're not worth having to stand still, and they're not worth 4,200 gold. So there's really just no good reason to get Ags on this hero, in my opinion. I just don't think it does enough. At least it doesn't feel like it does anything useful. Anyway, 73 Gyrocopter. Gyrocopter's Ags upgrade increases missile 2 damage by 75 at all levels, so it does 75 more damage if they get hit by the second missile, and it makes it global. Now, making it global is cool and all. The 75 damage is pretty negligible, because, I mean, it's 75 damage, and it's also reduced by magic, so it's even less than that. But it's basically just not really that useful to have it global. I mean, I guess you can push out other lanes, farm other lanes. You can maybe kind of help your team gank while not being there, but it's not worth 4,200 gold, that's for sure. I mean, this is like buying a 4,200 gold, like, Nature's Prophet Ultimate, basically, except it's a shittier version of it. So, I don't like this. I don't think it's good. I would not get this. It is bad. Especially because Gyrocopter is usually a carry, and even when he's a support, there are better items to go for with that 4,200 gold. So, I just don't think this is a good item on Gyrocopter. Moving on. 72, Skywrath. Skywrath's Ag Scepter reduces the cooldown from, I believe it's like, I think it's 80, 60, no, I think it's 80, 50, 20 normally, and it goes down to 20, 10, 0. Now, if you get this at level 1 and 2, it's kind of cool, I guess, but once you get to level 16, this is really worthless, because now your Aghanim Scepter alt costs 800 mana, and it has no cooldown, but you can only cast 2 in a fight. Guaranteed. There's no way you're going to have enough mana to cast a third ultimate, unless you have some ridiculous mana regen, like 50 plus Bloodstone charges. So, and at level 3, this ability already has a 20-second cooldown, so you can probably already get 2 off in a fight. So, there's really no reason to have your cooldown reduced from 20 to 0. I mean, like I said, it's cool at the earlier levels, but you're probably not even going to get it at the earlier levels. I know I said there's no gold bias, but that's a fact. Not going to get it at the earlier levels. It's not really going to do much. It's not worth the money. There are better items. You're going to hear that a lot this video. So yeah, I would never really get an Ags on Skywrath. I mean, there are maybe a couple times this could be good, like maybe if you want to hit 2 heroes in a Chronosphere, for example, if there's a Void on your team, but for the most part, this is just pretty much useless, honestly. Just doesn't do enough for its cost. Next hero we have, I believe, Earthshaker. Earthshaker. Now, Earthshaker's Ags upgrade causes heroes to echo twice, which means for every hero in the AoE of Echo Slam, you add another 70 damage. So this is probably going to add either 140 or 210 damage to your ult. Now, by the time you get an Aghanim Scepter, this is probably not very much damage. It is magical. So, like, this is pretty negligible damage once you get to the mid to late game. It's good in the early game, but you're not going to get an Aghanim Scepter in the early game, let's be realistic here. So, yeah, it's not good in that regard. And really, it's really not that much damage. Like, if I bought a Force Staff and a Ghost Scepter so I could stay alive a little longer, and I got off another Fissure, maybe another 2 Enchant Totems, then the damage increase I get from that is similar to getting the Aghanim Scepter, really. So there's not much point in getting this. It just doesn't do enough for the money it costs. So yeah, I would never really get... I don't think there's ever a great situation to get Ags on Earthshaker. Maybe if you just run out of things to buy, but if you run out of things to buy, something's probably wrong, because they're playing Earthshaker. Anyway, 70, Sand King. Now, Sand King is fairly similar to Earthshaker. Now, one thing I forgot to mention about Earthshaker that I want to mention about Sand King is that this damage that it's adding is on a very long cooldown. Now this is the same for Sand King. However, with Sand King, at least Aghanim Scepter lowers the cooldown of Epicenter by 20 seconds at every level. So it goes down to, I think, like 120, 180 seconds, which is nice. But it's nothing to write home about for 4,200 gold. Other than that, it adds 2 pulses, which is a total of 220 damage. Now, 220 damage might seem a lot, and it is, and it's also to everyone in the AoE, right? But it's really just not enough for the amount of money it costs. Like, Veil adds more damage to Sand King's ult than Aghanim Scepter does, so there's really not much reason to buy this item on this hero. I think there are definitely better items to buy, and I don't really see a situation in which you would really want this item on Sand King, to be honest. Maybe if you're getting 6 slotted, but if you're getting 6 slotted on Sand King, again, something's probably wrong. Anyway, moving on. Tusk, 69. Ha 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 ha. Tusk gets the ability Walrus Kick, which is like an Earth Spirit kick, but it also slows. I think it's on like a 12-second cooldown. So that's cool and all, but I mean, it doesn't really do anything. It's not that useful. You can save allies with it. It's kind of unrealistic to initiate with it. But at the end of the day, there are 2 ways to play Tusk. You can get a bunch of damage and try to Walrus Punch real hard, in which case Ags doesn't help. Or you can be a support and you can try to maybe initiate and save your allies, in which Walrus Punch or Walrus Kick, blah, is mediocre. And could be outclassed by like a simple Force Staff, to be honest. So, and a Blink Dagger. Like, you could buy a Blink and a Force Staff, and you have more saving potential than you do with an Ags. So, yeah. I don't really think, again, I mean, it would maybe be cool to buy, but it takes up an inventory slot, and it costs 4,200 gold, which is not worth. Moving on. 68. Tinker. Tinker gets the Refract Laser, so it bounces, and he gets 4 rockets. Now, that seems good at first. Even when you compare it to other items like Dagon, Shiva's Hex, it still kind of sounds good. The fact is, Tinker doesn't really like this item to fill an item slot. It gives okay health and mana, but it's not that good. And, I mean, 4,200 gold for 600 extra damage, essentially. 600 extra damage on the rockets, up to, but realistically probably either 300 to 600 more damage on laser. It's probably better to get like a Dagon 2 or a Shiva, because you're doing somewhat similar damage, maybe a little bit less, but it's less AoE, which is nice. If in the case of the Dagon, you get better CC in the case of Shivas and Hex that you do not get from this Tinker Ags. So Tinker Ags really just isn't that good, honestly. It doesn't. If Eggs gave a lot of mana, maybe it would be better, but as it stands, I don't think it's really all that good. Moving on. 67. Phoenix. Now, Phoenix is an interesting one, because Phoenix Eggs does actually have a place in the game of Dota 2. It can be very, very viable. In fact, it can be very, very good. However, in most circumstances, it results in a disaster, because you can pull your teammate in and die with them. In pubs, you could even get a teammate killed who would usually survive, because honestly, if there are 2 heroes in the egg, the normal egg is like, meh, maybe we'll kill it. But when you got 2 heroes in the egg, that is a giant ass target. It might as well be a giant freaking bullseye rather than a weird sun thing, because everyone's gonna go kill it. Now, so it's really not that good at saving allies, because, like I said, the egg's just gonna die. Where it is good, however, is it still refreshes cooldowns, which means with heroes, certain heroes, specifically Lone Druid and Terrorblade, you can refresh the cooldown, very long cooldowns of abilities that are very good. So you can get 2 Metamorphoses, you can get a 3rd Bear, and that is pretty damn amazing, to be honest. But it's extremely situational, And honestly, you want to be initiating with Phoenix. You don't really want to be pulling people into your egg to save them. That means you're counter-initiating. So, really, and even if you are saving here, you're probably not going to have the time to throw out all your freaking stupid-ass spirits to slow their attack speed, and you're probably just going to die. Which is unfortunate, but true. So, really, just not that good at the end of the day. Moving on. 66, Lifestealer. Lifestealer gets the ability Inverse Infest, as I call it. Someone infests you, and they get healed. All the damage Lifestealer gets healed. Now, as soon as you read this ability, it sounds counterintuitive. Because, fact is, if you have an Aghanim Scepter on Lifestealer, you're not really doing that much damage. And if you're not really doing that much damage, you're not lifestealing that much. And if you're not lifestealing that much, you're not healing your assimilated hero that much. So that's really not that great. I mean, we can always bring up the Alchemist theories, but screw Alchemist. We're not considering Alchemist a factor anywhere in this entire goddamn series, except for, the part where I put Alchemist. But anyway, still, Lifestealer just, I mean, assimilate. A Lifestealer doesn't want to have an Aghanim Scepter in his inventory ever for any reason. Doesn't give him anything, really. Gives him a little bit of health, which is meh. This is not good to have on a Lifestealer, ever. There's no reason you would ever want to be holding an Aghanim Scepter. And fact is, the only time I can really see this useful would be if you're playing, like, Blink, Blink Aghanim's Lifestealer, and you, like, blink in and assimilate your carry, then rage TP back to base to save them or something. But, honestly, that's not that good. The one time people do think this is good is when you do the triple infest ganks, where you would assimilate someone, then infest someone else, and then you have you have two heroes inside one, and you all pop out and do your thing. The fact is, most heroes who would be a good partner for this are heroes who want a Blink Dagger, and by the time Lifestealer has an Aghanim, those heroes probably have a Blink Dagger, so they don't need this, and then at the end of the day, your Aghanim Scepter is adding 300 AoE damage. 4,200 gold for 300 AoE damage is not good, as you can clearly tell from all these Aghanim Scepter upgrades I've been talking about this video. It's just not enough for the gold it costs. Sorry. Alright. Now, last hero in this video, 65, Luna. Luna, honestly, I like the concept of Luna's Aghanim's upgrade. It is going to increase the beams, it is going to get rid of the cap, and it is now castable on areas and on allies. However, fact is, it is still a Luna. Now, chances are your Luna is your one position, because she is terrible everywhere else. And if your one position is buying an Aghanim Scepter to upgrade a magical ultimate, there is generally something terribly wrong. Now, I mean, looking at this, 4,200 gold for 900 damage essentially adds 3 beams, I believe. Once again, meh, nah, not really that good. Don't like it. Blah, 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 blah. You're going to hear that a lot, like I said. Not good enough for the cost. Moving on. Casting it on allies is interesting and sometimes useful. Casting on areas is almost always terrible. And getting rid of the bounce limit is pretty terrible as well because, let's be honest here. When you are casting Eclipse on one hero, which is the only time this bounce limit change is really going to be useful, then you have a 5 beam limit. You probably casted 1 beam at the start, then you casted Eclipse, hit them with 5 beams, then you're casting another beam at the end. That's 7 beams. If you can't kill the hero with 7 beams, that's a frickin' problem. You probably shouldn't be going for that hero. So, this Aghanim Scepter upgrade just doesn't really feel like it does anything for the hero specifically. I mean, the concept, like I said, is very cool. If Luna was a different hero, I can see it working. But she's not. She's a carry hero. If she was like an offlaner, I could see this being decent, but she's not. So really, at the end of the day, is just not good enough to merit buying an Aghanim Scepter. And yeah, that is the first video of 7 I have planned about Aghanim Scepter upgrades. This was the bottom 11. I will catch you guys tomorrow, hopefully, with upgrades. Quick math. 64 through 53. And until then, I will see you guys later. I'm Clips, and I'm out.